I know I deserve the harshest words thrown my way. I made a colossal mistake, betraying someone dear to me and failing to appreciate the love bestowed upon me. I'm aware that there's no way to undo what I've done, but I still fantasize about turning back time if it were possible. Kai, my ex-husband, and I were together for 5 years. Throughout that period, he adored me passionately, showering me with attention, care, and tenderness. And perhaps I just let myself be loved. Initially, I reveled in his affection. It felt wonderful. But soon I started to take it for granted. Eventually, his constant care and attention began to irritate me. He was incredibly positive in every way, always willing to compromise, which I began to see as a weakness. He was too perfect. He devoted himself entirely to me, and I felt like the only thing missing was a halo over his head. He genuinely wanted children. At the time, I didn't feel ready. I wanted to live for myself. Eventually, I decided I didn't want kids with him because I wasn't certain I wanted to spend my life with him. I was studying to be a hairdresser, gaining experience in low-end salons. After 2 years, I landed a job at a prestigious salon located on the ground floor of a hotel complex. There I quickly became friends with the administrator and owner, Taylor, a young woman only 2 years older than me. The salon, named after her, was called Taylor. She was a spoiled and glamorous girl who believed all men were the same, only wanting one thing from women: sex. She often said they were not worthy of love and should simply be used. She was quite a striking woman. Despite her slender frame, her bust was notably generous. It was clear she took good care of herself. Taylor confided in me that she'd been married twice already, once foolishly, the second time strategically. Her second ex-husband was 25 years her senior but wealthy. He gifted her an apartment, a car, this salon, and a lot of money. Taylor switched lovers like gloves. She believed that with good looks, the right words, and a few bedroom tricks, any man could be hers. After all, she said, a man's ego was his weak spot, and it needed to be exploited skillfully. Her worldview influenced me. I saw that she lived for herself, and I began to think I should too. Kay started to seem dull. One day, Taylor introduced me to her current boyfriend, and the three of us went to a restaurant in the hotel. He was there on a business trip and staying at the hotel. Ethan, as he was called, started paying more attention to me. Taylor didn't mind. I succumbed to his charms, and we spent the night together in his room. This led to a confrontation with my husband and Taylor. I found something to say to my husband. It wasn't my first betrayal. He listened and, once again, believed me because he loved me deeply. But how would Taylor react? I went to work expecting a scandal and possible dismissal, but Taylor was unruffled. She said no man was worth fighting over with her best friend. If you like him, take him, she said, already tired of him. My affair with Ethan progressed swiftly. Taylor often covered for me with Kai. One day, Ethan confessed he loved me and was ready to propose. He didn't want to share me, not even with my husband. I fell head over heels for him. Ethan gave me a week to talk to Kai and make a decision before he left. But I was at a loss on how to break the news to my husband. If Kai were lackluster, it would have been easier to leave, but he wasn't. Should I be honest and say I'd fallen for someone else? I didn't want to appear as a traitor. His perfection frustrated me, and I craved a legitimate excuse. So I persuaded Taylor to seduce my husband. Strangely enough, Taylor agreed. She loved such adventures. But the next day, she came in upset and angry. She said that no man could resist her, but Kai was like a robot, saying, "I love my wife and nothing more." For the first time, I felt a pang of guilt. Was I doing the right thing? Then Taylor suggested Plan B. On our day off, I prepared a festive table at home with lots of alcohol, though Kai never drank much. Taylor joined us and spiked his drink with a potion she brought. It knocked him out. We dragged him to the bedroom, undressed him completely, and put him to bed. Then Taylor undressed herself and lay down next to him. Now I realize how idiotic that act was and feel disgusted by it. To betray a husband who loved me more than anyone else, to leave him, and with a sense of guilt. The next morning, I caught them together and made a scandal. Kai was bewildered, claiming he remembered nothing, but I didn't listen. I packed my things, called a taxi, said I couldn't forgive betrayal, and was filing for divorce. I quit the salon and left the city. I played the offended victim well. I threw my wedding ring and apartment keys, picked up my bags, and left, abandoning a grief-stricken and guilt-ridden husband and a smiling Taylor. I arrived at the hotel where Ethan was waiting. 2 days later, we moved to St. Petersburg. Kai and I divorced quickly, as we had no children, and I had no property claims. I just sent him a notice of divorce. Life with Ethan lasted a year. The first 2 months were like a fairy tale. Then he turned into a despot. He was jealous of every little thing, yet he flirted with every woman he met. I wanted a child, but he forced me to have an abortion. He forbade me to communicate with anyone and then to leave the house. He never proposed. Finally, he started hitting me. Unlike Kai, he was a complete egotist. I realized it was all coming back to me like a boomerang. I often thought of my ex-husband, blaming myself for the cruel way I treated him. I cursed myself for my infidelities and the pain I caused him. I cried for days and nights, remembering the good times we had. I tried to call him, but the number was no longer in service. I tried to reach Taylor with the same result. I couldn't stand Ethan's treatment anymore. I told him I was leaving and going back to my ex-husband. He just laughed in my face and said, "Good luck." He didn't hold me back. I returned to the city where I had lived with Kai. I was sure he still loved me and blamed himself for our breakup. I wanted to see him, fall at his feet, explain everything, ask for forgiveness, and persuade him to start over. But when I knocked on the door of the apartment I left a year ago, it wasn't Kay who opened it. I barely recognized Taylor. She was no longer the flighty, glamorous, frivolous girl I remembered. Standing before me was a modest, serious woman without bright makeup. She was visibly pregnant, wearing a green blouse and a denim sundress. I had never seen her like this. Taylor greeted me coldly but kindly and let me in. Everything had changed. The place was renovated with new furniture and curtains, and the bedroom was set up as a nursery. Taylor began to tell me everything. She said her first marriage was at 17. Her husband drank and beat her, once so severely that she miscarried and couldn't have children. That's what made her the way she was. Everything changed when Kay came into her life. She said he was the only man in the world who deserved love and happiness, and I didn't appreciate him throwing away such a rare and precious person. She recounted what happened the day I stormed out of the apartment. Taylor dressed and left as well, and then a terrible thing happened. Sometimes her car wouldn't start for a long time. Then some idiot blocked the road, and some unknown force pulled her back. For good reason. Taylor hurried back to the apartment, knocked, rang, called Kay's name, but no one answered. She felt in her heart that something terrible had happened, and she wasn't mistaken. She called the Ministry of Emergency Situations and an ambulance just in case. They unlocked the apartment. Kai had tried to commit suicide. He had cut his veins in the bathroom. If Taylor had been even a moment later, I would have been visiting his grave. Kai was rushed to the hospital, had a blood transfusion, and Taylor went with him. When he recovered, Taylor confessed everything, asked for his forgiveness, and told him I had another man but didn't want to admit it. She visited him daily, brought him home from the hospital, and spent a lot on psychologists. It was there in the hospital that she first learned what true love is. For the first time in her life, she confessed she truly loved someone. It took a long time for Kay to forgive her and love her back. She said she pieced together his heart, which I had broken, and fought tooth and nail for her happiness. When she realized she was pregnant with Kay's child, it was the pinnacle of her dreams. I asked if she was expecting a child with my husband. She replied that no, she was expecting a child with her husband. She showed me her wedding ring and informed me that as soon as they found out she was pregnant, they immediately applied to the registry office. They'd been scheduled for 6 months. She added it was better for Kai and me not to meet, and that I should forget about him. She would defend him fiercely. She didn't think Kai would want to talk to me at all. Besides, he would be home from work soon, and it was better if we didn't meet. It was harmful for her to worry, given her condition. I left the apartment and felt an overwhelming sense of despair. I blamed everyone, Taylor, Ethan, even Kai, for finding solace so quickly. It even began to seem like Taylor had deliberately pushed me towards Ethan to take Kai away from me. I longed to see Kai and ask for his forgiveness. I was convinced he still loved me, but had just found comfort with Taylor.